welcome back. You're watching Newslink here on eNCA, and we've been taking you live to the state capture inquiry where President Cyril Ramaphosa has been on the stand, so to speak. As we adjourn for a 15-minute tea break, we're joined by political commentator William Gumede to discuss the highlights from this morning's testimony. Prof, let's start off. Good morning. Let's start off, first of all, with the President's testimony regarding his role in the ANC and the deployment committee. How did he acquit himself there?
He didn't sound very convincing to start off with. And also what comes out clearly is, the president, like many other ANC members, sat there quietly, for a decade, saying nothing, didn't speak out, didn't resign, and that says something about politics because where's the moral courage? Where's the moral conviction? And because if one sits and stay with the corruption, saying that one is working from inside to change things, really that is just essentially indirectly supporting corruption and abetting corruption. And that is one of the reasons why, corruption has become so systemic and for such a long time, because many people, like the president in the ANC, sat there quietly working from inside.
Prof, your take on the president's explanation of how he didn't know about or the extent of state capture as deputy president until, for instance, the Gupta leaks, that he was essentially saying that government acts in silos. Did you buy into that?
No, that really is a poor excuse. I actually expected him, to acknowledge the corruption was there and that he and the ANC leadership did nothing about it because, really that's the credibility of ordinary citizens. Because, it's been public, there's been journalistic reports, there's been whistleblowers. It seems like everyone in the country knew about corruption except the ANC leadership.
He outlined the 5 options that he had, and one of them was to resign, which he said would have just impaired his ability to end state capture. Do you not think, Prof, that if he and others who were seemingly against state capture and corruption had resigned, we might be in a much worse position than we're in now?
I disagree with that. I think if he had resigned, if he had spoken out and he was ejected from the party, he was fired, it would actually have stopped corruption right there and then because he then would have been out in the public. He could have formed his own political party, take some of the ANC members who are honest and conscious with him. And I think that would have stopped the corruption by, the fact that he stayed in for such a long time without saying anything. That really just bolsters the corruption, that prolong the state of corruption in the country. So I disagree with the fact that he would be, that him being on the inside, being very quiet, that stops corruption. It didn't.
What endgame then do you think he was playing if he decided to keep quiet and stay? On your version? I think
the end game for him, of course, was to become the president of the ANC. I don't think his end game was to, to tackle corruption during that period. He was to become the ANC president. He is now the ANC president. And sadly, for the last decade, really, we've lost growth, we've lost jobs, we've lost lives because of corruption. Now we almost had a civil war, and it's all because of corruption, all because of the ANC, and all of these things could have been stopped a long time ago. We're a poorer country than we were since 1994 because of corruption. And because of lack of accountability and impunity. And, I think resigning earlier on would have actually, stopped it. I think it would have stopped corruption. And if he could have formed another party, for example, and I think people would have supported him also. And he could also have become a president if he had break away from the ANC.
Prof, last question. In mitigation, if you like, when he read out that statement, he outlined what he's done to sort of restore the integrity of Treasury, the state-owned enterprises, the NDPP. Do you think that he's moved fast enough in trying to make those changes?
Of course, those changes are good, but I mean, too slow. We really need radical changes. We need, people to be fired, people to be held accountable. I mean, the interesting thing is, they came out again for me was that in the 10 years after Zuma presidency, in the minutes of the ANC, no one was suspended in the ANC. No one was held accountable. Even up to now, I mean, the first person who's actually been suspended is ANC General Secretary Ace Magashule. I mean, it's very late. So we've lost 10 years. We lost most probably up to 4 or 5 trillion rands. I mean, we've lost jobs. People have died. It's very, very late in the day. And still, we're not seeing the kind of activity, resolve and that we need to see. I mean, people are feeling hopeless on the ground. And we're not seeing the tougher measures that's needed after the fact.
Prof, it was quite interesting to hear that Cyril Ramaphosa had said that he had threatened to resign during the 2015 Des Van Rooyen weekend special finance minister incident, and that had caused a flurry of meetings, and Gwede Mantashe had been involved, and he did manage to convince the ANC to appoint Pravin Gordhan then as finance minister and get rid of Des Van Rooyen. Do you think that he has enough power then? He had enough power then, and does he have enough power now to affect real change?
I think, President Ramaphosa seems to me, from where I'm sitting, he has undermined his own power. I mean, he has been underestimating his own power. Even when he was deputy president, he had more power when he was deputy president. And if he had done things earlier on, the country would have looked very different. I mean, even in 2015, when he intervened, I mean, that was really, he was showing his power, and unfortunately, even now, when he's now that he's president, I don't think he even sees the power that he has. He is now the president of the country. I mean, no one has more political power than him. But I mean, he still acts as if he doesn't have the power. He still acts as if he is the deputy president with no power. And I think maybe that's a real disappointment for many of his supporters.
All right, Professor William Gumede there on the President's speech and his testimony before the state capture inquiry. Thank you so much for your time.